Imagine waking up inside a queen's castle in the year 1350. At first, it feels like a dream. Towering stone walls, golden tapestries, servants waiting for your every command. A life most people could only imagine. But the illusion doesn't last long. Because before you even leave your bed, you notice something strange. A smell. Not the fragrance of roses. Not expensive perfume. Something much older. Smoke. Damp stone. Stale air. And the scent of a world that has never truly been clean. You expect a warm bath to begin your morning. Instead, a servant hands you a damp linen cloth. That's all. In this castle, bathing is rare. Perfume replaces soap. Beauty hides discomfort. And every royal ritual comes with a price. The queen may appear flawless to everyone around her. But behind the jeweled crown lies a daily routine filled with exhausting traditions, dangerous beliefs, and hidden realities that history rarely talks about. By the end of this journey, you may never look at medieval castles the same way again. Because surviving life inside a queen's castle wasn't a privilege. For most of us, it would have been a nightmare.
The first thing you notice isn't the luxury. It's the cold. Even beneath layers of expensive blankets, the stone walls have trapped the night's chill. The air feels damp, and every breath reminds you that this castle was built for defense, not comfort. As morning arrives, servants quietly enter your chamber carrying a polished silver basin. You smile. Finally, a chance to wash. But your expectations disappear almost instantly. The basin contains only a small amount of cool water. Not enough for a bath. Not even enough to wash your entire body. A servant gently dampens a linen cloth and carefully wipes your hands and face. Then she removes the basin. The morning routine is already over. You wait for someone to prepare a proper bath. No one does. Inside a medieval queen's castle, this is considered perfectly normal. To modern eyes, it feels unhygienic. To the people of the 14th century, it feels sensible. Many believe that bathing too often weakened the body. Without any understanding of bacteria or germs, doctors and scholars argued that hot water opened the pores, allowing dangerous illnesses to enter the skin. Cleanliness wasn't measured by how often you bathed. It was measured by how clean your clothes appeared, and how pleasant you smelled. Moments later, another servant arrives carrying small glass bottles filled with lavender oil, crushed rosemary, and dried rose petals. Instead of washing away sweat and dirt, these fragrant mixtures are gently rubbed onto your neck, wrists, and clothing. The perfume is pleasant, but only for a moment. Soon, another smell quietly returns. Smoke from the fireplaces, damp stone, heavy wool, and the scent of bodies that haven't been properly washed in weeks. Then the queen enters the room. She looks elegant. She looks powerful. She looks absolutely flawless. But behind that perfect appearance lies a daily routine far stranger, and far more dangerous, than you could possibly imagine. The queen now takes her place before a polished sheet of silver. There are no glass mirrors as you know them today. The reflection is dim, soft, just clear enough for her attendants to begin the next part of the morning ritual. One servant carefully opens a small wooden box. Inside is a pale white powder. It doesn't look dangerous. In fact, it represents beauty itself. In medieval Europe, pale skin was a symbol of wealth and nobility. A woman whose face remained white was seen as someone who never worked under the sun. Dark or tan skin suggested long hours of labor in the fields, something no queen wished to be associated with. So every morning, the attendants work patiently to make the queen's complexion appear as fair as possible. The powder is gently brushed across her cheeks, her forehead, her neck, until every trace of natural color begins to disappear. From a distance, the result is breathtaking. Her skin appears smooth, perfect, almost untouched by time. But beauty often hides a price. Many of the cosmetics used during the medieval period contained ingredients that would horrify us today. Some mixtures included chalk, powdered minerals, or substances that slowly irritated the skin after repeated use. Others dried the face so severely that cracks and sores became almost impossible to avoid. When that happened, the solution wasn't to stop using the makeup. It was to apply even more. Layer after layer. Day after day. The queen remains perfectly still while her attendants continue their work, never questioning whether these treatments are helping or harming her. Because appearance isn't a choice. It's part of her duty. A queen must always look calm, graceful, untouchable, even if achieving that image slowly damages the very face she is trying to protect. And before she leaves her chamber, one final beauty ritual awaits. A ritual hidden beneath layers of silk, where almost no one would ever think to look. As the final touches of makeup are complete, the attendants turn their attention to something no visitor would ever notice at first glance. The queen's hair. You expect it to be washed, brushed, and left flowing over her shoulders. Instead, every strand is carefully hidden. A fine linen cap is placed over her hair. Then another layer of fabric. Finally, an elegant veil is arranged with remarkable precision, leaving almost nothing visible beneath it. It isn't simply a matter of fashion. It serves another purpose. Keeping the hair covered helped protect it from dust, smoke, and the endless grime that filled every corner of the castle. Washing hair was difficult, time-consuming, and far less common than most people imagine. Instead of frequent cleaning, women often relied on combs, scented herbs, and powders to keep their hair looking presentable. Even so, there was a problem that no amount of perfume could solve. Lice. They were everywhere. It didn't matter whether you were a servant sleeping on straw, or a queen resting beneath embroidered silk. The tiny insects spread easily through clothing, bedding, and close contact with other people. In a crowded castle filled with servants, visitors, guards, and nobles, avoiding them was almost impossible. Fine-toothed combs became one of the most valuable personal items a noblewoman could own. Every morning, attendants carefully searched through the queen's hair, hoping to remove any unwanted visitors before they multiplied. It was considered an ordinary part of daily life. No one reacted with surprise. No one felt embarrassed, because everyone understood that even royalty lived with the same invisible enemies. As the queen rises from her chair, her appearance is once again flawless. The elegant veil hides every imperfection, every concern, every secret. But beneath the heavy layers of luxurious fabric, another problem has already begun to grow, one that follows the queen with every step she takes through the castle. The moment the queen stands, two attendants step forward carrying the most expensive part of her morning routine: her clothing. At first, the gown looks breathtaking. Rich velvet, fine silk, intricate embroidery stitched with gold thread. Every layer has been carefully crafted to display power, wealth, and royal authority. But the closer you look, the heavier it becomes. One layer is placed over another: a linen shift, a fitted gown, a thick outer dress, a heavy cloak, depending on the season. By the time the attendants finish dressing the queen, the weight of her clothing can feel exhausting. Yet the greatest problem isn't the weight. It's how rarely these garments are cleaned. Modern washing machines don't exist. Even washing by hand is risky. Fine fabrics are expensive, delicate, and incredibly difficult to dry inside a damp stone castle. A single damaged gown could cost a fortune to replace. So instead of washing the outer garments, they are brushed, aired out, and covered with fragrant herbs whenever possible. The dirt remains. The sweat remains. Only the smell is disguised. As the days pass, each layer quietly absorbs smoke from the fireplaces, moisture from the cold air, and the scent of the people wearing it. Eventually, the perfume can no longer hide everything. The entire castle develops its own unmistakable smell. Not because people didn't care about cleanliness, but because they simply didn't have the knowledge or technology to keep hundreds of heavy garments truly clean. You begin to understand that luxury in the medieval world often meant sacrificing comfort. The queen may wear the finest clothing in the kingdom, yet beneath those beautiful fabrics, she carries the same heat, discomfort, and stale air that fills every corner of the castle. And before the day has even truly begun, she must walk through halls where the smell is even harder to escape. The moment you step beyond the queen's private chamber, the atmosphere changes. The quiet elegance of her room quickly gives way to the reality of castle life. Long stone corridors stretch in every direction. Servants hurry past carrying buckets of water, baskets of food, and armfuls of firewood. Their footsteps echo through the halls as smoke from dozens of fireplaces hangs heavily in the air. There are no windows large enough to properly ventilate the castle. Very little fresh air reaches the inner rooms. Instead, the smell lingers. Smoke, damp stone, cooked meat, wet wool, and the scent of hundreds of people living together inside the same walls. Every day. Every season. As you continue walking, another odor becomes impossible to ignore. It's stronger. Far more unpleasant. Hidden inside the thick castle walls are small rooms known as garderobes. These are the castle's toilets. A simple wooden seat sits above a vertical shaft cut directly through the stone. Human waste falls into a pit below, or, in some castles, straight into the moat outside the walls. There is no running water. No flushing system. No disinfectant. Only gravity. On windy days, the smell drifts back through the openings and into nearby rooms. Even members of the royal family cannot completely escape it. Servants do what they can. They scatter fresh herbs across the floors, burn sweet-smelling plants, keep fires burning throughout the day. But these efforts only mask the problem. They never remove it. To the people of the Middle Ages, this is simply part of everyday life. No one complains. No one expects anything different. But to you, every breath is a reminder that the magnificent castle you've admired from the outside hides a reality far less glamorous within. And just when you think you've discovered the worst part of living here, the Queen's next beauty ritual reveals a secret that could be even more disturbing than the castle itself. As the morning slowly passes, the Queen retreats to a smaller chamber reserved for her private beauty rituals. The room is quiet. Only a few trusted attendants are allowed inside. A wooden table is covered with tiny jars, glass bottles, dried flowers, herbs, and thick creams prepared by the castle's apothecary. At first glance, everything appears surprisingly sophisticated. It almost resembles an early skincare routine. But the ingredients tell a very different story. One servant gently opens a small container filled with a thick, pale cream. It smells strongly of animal fat mixed with fragrant herbs. This is applied to the Queen's hands and face, not to nourish the skin, but to protect it from the cold, dry air inside the castle. Another attendant carefully dabs rosewater onto a linen cloth and gently presses it against the Queen's cheeks. The cool liquid feels refreshing. For a moment, it almost seems familiar. Then comes another mixture. Crushed herbs, ground minerals, and powders whose exact ingredients often vary from one castle to another. No one truly understands which treatments work. Most are based on tradition, superstition, or advice passed down through generations. If a cream causes irritation, it isn't thrown away. It's simply believed that the body is purifying itself. If a treatment burns the skin, many assume it must be working. Questioning these remedies is rare. Because medical knowledge in the medieval world is still limited, appearance is often guided more by belief than by science. The queen patiently endures each step without complaint. She's expected to. Looking beautiful isn't simply about vanity. It's part of royal authority. Every noble who enters the castle expects their queen to appear calm, graceful, and almost perfect. No matter how uncomfortable the process may be. But while everyone admires her flawless appearance, almost no one notices the tiny creatures hiding much closer than anyone would like to imagine. And unlike expensive perfumes, these unwanted guests cannot be covered up forever. As the day continues, you begin to notice that people inside the castle scratch far more often than they should. A servant briefly rubs the back of his neck before returning to work. A guard adjusts the collar of his tunic with visible discomfort. Even one of the queen's ladies-in-waiting quietly reaches beneath her sleeve, hoping no one will notice. At first, it seems unimportant. Then you realize they're all dealing with the same problem. Fleas. Tiny insects that thrive in warm clothing, wool blankets, straw mattresses, and the narrow cracks of old wooden furniture. In a medieval castle, they are almost impossible to escape. Every room provides the perfect home. Every bed offers another place to hide. Even the queen's luxurious chamber is no exception. Her mattress may be covered in fine linen and embroidered blankets, but beneath those beautiful layers lies a simple filling of straw, feathers, or dried plant material. Over time, it becomes the perfect shelter for fleas and other unwanted pests. At night, while the castle grows quiet, they emerge. Small bites become part of everyday life. Most people barely react anymore. It's simply the way things are. To reduce the problem, servants regularly beat mattresses outside, hang blankets in the fresh air, and scatter dried herbs like lavender or wormwood around the bed. Sometimes it helps. Often it doesn't. Without modern insect control, the battle is never truly won. The queen sleeps surrounded by luxury. Yet she cannot escape the same tiny creatures that trouble the poorest servant in the castle. In the Middle Ages, wealth could buy silk, gold, and jeweled crowns. But it could not buy a peaceful night's sleep. And as evening approaches, another challenge awaits the queen, one that no perfume, no expensive gown, and no royal title can possibly hide. Imagine waking up inside a magnificent queen's castle in the year 1350. Golden tapestries hang from towering stone walls. Candles flicker softly across polished furniture. Servants quietly wait for your every command. At first, it feels like you've stepped into a fairy tale. But then, you notice the smell. It creeps through the room beneath the perfume of roses and lavender. Smoke from endless fireplaces. Damp stone walls. Unwashed bodies. And something far worse that no amount of perfume can hide. A servant approaches with what looks like a silver wash basin. You smile, expecting a warm bath after a long night. Instead, you're handed a damp cloth. That's all. Because in this castle, bathing is rare, beauty is painful, and the rituals meant to keep the queen looking flawless could slowly destroy her health. Behind every jeweled crown lies a world of parasites, dangerous cosmetics, strange medical beliefs, and secrets history rarely talks about. By the end of this journey, you'll understand why surviving a medieval queen's beauty routine wasn't a privilege, it was a nightmare. Night settles over the castle. The great hall grows silent as the final candles flicker against the ancient stone walls. Outside, the wind whistles through narrow windows. Inside, the queen finally lies down to rest. At last, you think the day is over. But sleep doesn't come easily. The mattress beneath her is stuffed with straw and feathers. It feels soft at first. Then the itching begins. Tiny insects hidden deep inside the bedding emerge in the darkness, turning the quiet night into another battle. The air inside the chamber remains heavy with smoke from the fireplaces. Fresh air is scarce. The scent of herbs struggles to hide everything else. Somewhere in the castle, footsteps echo through empty corridors as guards continue their watch. Tomorrow morning, the queen will wake, and the entire routine will begin again. The same perfumes. The same heavy clothing. The same uncomfortable rituals. Day after day. Year after year. Then you realize something unexpected. The fairy tale you've imagined your entire life never truly existed. And the greatest surprise of all is waiting for you when the sun rises one final time. 40.
As the first light of another morning reaches the castle, you take one last look around. The towering walls still appear magnificent. The queen still wears her jeweled crown. The servants continue their work as though nothing has changed. But now, you see the castle differently. You no longer see luxury. You see cold stone, heavy air, ancient beliefs, and ordinary people doing their best in a world that knew nothing about germs, modern medicine, or proper hygiene. History often shows us kings and queens at their most glamorous. It rarely shows us what their daily lives actually felt like. Perhaps that's why the medieval world continues to fascinate us. Because behind every beautiful painting, there was a reality far more complicated than the legends. And maybe that's the greatest lesson history can teach us. Sometimes the past isn't mysterious because we don't have enough answers. It's mysterious because the truth is so different from the stories we've been told. So tell me, after everything you've seen today, do you think you could survive just 1 week inside a medieval queen's castle? Let me know your answer in the comments. And if you enjoy exploring the forgotten, unsettling, and hidden chapters of history, don't forget to subscribe. Because the next journey into the past may be even darker than this one. Until next time, keep questioning history. This is Chronospecture History.